Hi, what's up, sophomores? It's Monday, March 23rd. The weekend is over. This video is a little late in the day because one of the things I don't want to do is work on the weekend. Hopefully you don't want to work on the weekend. Hopefully you didn't have to work on the weekend. The only time I would say do some work on the weekend is if you have obligations all week and you get to it and you need to make up this stuff. Just as a reminder, this exercise, 10 items, it's supposed to last 2 weeks, so we're at the beginning of week 2. So if you only did personal interest items and science items, I do want you to try and mix in like 1 or 2 pieces of literature this week. Just a short story, a poem, something like that that'll, that you're experiencing art and not just reading about, science in the world. I think art's really important. I think like this pandemic, this like lockdown that we're in has shown how important art is. Like think of how many shows and movies you watch and how you're clamoring for more shows and movies, maybe ones that like you want on high recommendation. Even just having seen titles on Netflix for like months and months but never watching them creates this like bad taste in your mouth, so you don't want to go watch them. You're like, oh, that's old. So you're constantly looking for new and interesting art to experience. And literature's part of that. Like I mentioned last week, read a comic book, a graphic novel. If you're looking for things, I'll post some more this week. I know like making these videos and reading all your comments and making assignments is taking up a lot of my time. I haven't found time to go and look for new literature. I'm trying to do my own reading to keep up with you guys, but I will make it a point if you guys are looking for something to read to provide that. A lot of resources are free right now. We're going to talk about some of those as the week goes on, as I just add more and more resources to what we're doing. Continue to love reading what you're writing. Thank you for the feedback. Most of it was positive, which is great. Was looking for some criticism just so we can sort of like direct this in some way. But if you guys are happy with what we're doing, then it's great. The only like real criticism I got was someone mentioned not wanting to comment on the other people's writings because it's uncomfortable or awkward or something. And that's fine. I was just trying to provide some way for you to interact. Like school's one of the most important things about school is how social it is and how you're interacting with one another and just like talking to each other, meeting each other, and forming friendships and relationships. That I didn't want you to lose that. What we're doing is so isolated. I wanted you to communicate in some way. But hopefully you're doing that just on text or just like Snapchatting each other or whatever you young whippersnappers do to like stay in contact. Today I want to talk about sunk costs, which sounds sort of like stuffy and adult and important, but maybe you've seen some of these idioms. I'm just going to read right from the screen here. In for a penny, in for a pound. The first law of holes, or the law of holes. The law of holes is if you find yourself in a hole, don't keep digging. Throwing good money after bad, no one to hold them, no one to fold them. Let bygones be bygones. Bygones are like they've gone by, you let them happen. Water under the bridge. The idea here, actually, we just take a look at. I'm going to link the Wikipedia page too. It's a little more, technical in terms of like the fallacy effect and the bygones principle. It's very scientific because this is a scientific thing. This is about social behavior and behavioral science. But the sunk cost fallacy is the definition of a sunk cost, and I'm reading right here, is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. So why is this important? Well, most people fall victim to sunk cost fallacy, which means we make incorrect decisions when it comes to sunk costs. We incorrectly value the sunk cost we have as more than $0, which leads us to suboptimal decision making. Even people who understand expected value, EV, which is what I named my daughter, can fall victim to this trap. We're wired to believe that our time and money we have already invested into something should be factored into our current decision making, but this is flawed logic. Think about, this isn't just about money, this is about real world examples. Have you ever purchased something, a pair of clothes, or I don't know, just any item, because and then you spent a lot of money on it, or you really, really loved it at the time, and so you've kept it forever? I know I have. I've purchased clothes that people look at me like, why the hell did you buy that? I thought it was awesome, I overpaid for it, and I still have it from like when I was 20, because I can't let it go, I can't throw it away. That's idiotic. That's the sunk cost fallacy. Maybe you've purchased like a ticket to an event, maybe a concert or something, but you don't want to go. You don't want to go with the people. You don't want to drive that far. You don't like the artist anymore. Do you go because you spent the money on a ticket? It might be easy now to sell it, but do you go because you spent that money on it? That's the sunk cost fallacy. Even just like if you've kept watching a show or a movie series, I know like a lot of people by the end of the Marvel, like 21 Marvel movies, got pretty bored of them, but didn't want to give up because they'd seen so many, even though they really, really despise them. Or like any show that you're still grinding because you loved it at the beginning and you really want to see it through till the end, even though you don't love watching it anymore. That's the sunk cost fallacy. So all these are kind of like light examples of, you know, when you sink costs and you don't want to let go of things. I think that if you spend some time, you could think of real important examples. I think one that's going on in the world right now is whether businesses want to A, stay open, or B, like not file for bankruptcy or just close their business forever. No one knows when this thing's going to end. We think we do, but then we also hear some scientists and important people say, you know, this could go till July, this could go till next year. We could be dealing with this for years off and on, where we get a few months out and then a few months where we have to rein it back in and lock down again. So if you're a business, do you just cut your losses altogether? You've spent time, money, you've paid rent, you've bought a building, you've, you know, spent capital buying materials. You know, you guys learn a lot about entrepreneurship in your shops, especially finance and marketing, but I think it really goes to all the shops, at least most of them. When do you give up? I think, you know, anyone who's ever thought about not finishing high school because you don't want to go to college or whatever, you know, you're in a great situation where even if like you kind of, if you don't want to go to college, you're getting a shop certificate, which is, you know, awesome. But think about people who, you know, get to 12th grade, they really, really hate school, they don't want to finish, and they never do. They didn't take, if you drop out, you're not taking the sunk costs into account. I think it's a little different for high school because you're getting something tangible at the end that's really rewarding, that takes a long time to get. But say you dealt with something really traumatic and you just simply couldn't finish school. You got sick, or someone in your family got sick, or God forbid you lost somebody and you just couldn't bring yourself to go to school again. You know, there are other options like the GED, but the point I'm trying to make is you should never look at what you already did or what you already spent when making a decision about something you no longer want to do. And that works with like relationships, people staying in them too long. Like I said, job, if you really hate your job but you're afraid to go out and get a new one, that's part sunk cost fallacy. So I think it's just a really, really interesting, and again, this is my reading for the, you know, for the weekend. It's one of the things that I reread up on. It's one of my favorite subjects. But just personal interest, articles, story, informational videos, something like that. So I'm going to post these links. If this is kind of interesting to you, check them out. I think this Forever Jobless site, actually, Sean, if you're watching, this is pretty good. It's like all about how to create a business that prints money, how to set your goals, not sure what you want, how to achieve your goals. It's all about entrepreneurial diversification. I don't know, but it's a pretty interesting site that I've always had bookmarked because there's always like interesting articles about behavioral science and like financial decisions. When you get older and you have to like start saving for retirement and everything, you have to make like important financial decisions about budgeting and everything. And this is always these economical decisions are really interesting to me. I got to take economics as a senior in high school and I really loved it, and I kind of wish I stuck with it. Not that I'm unhappy in my job now, but it's something that always interested me. So that's it for me, because we're coming up on 9 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but remember to do that reading this week. Most people have been doing really great at, you know, just writing out a paragraph or two at the end of the day. I'm responding to them all, so keep those coming, and I'll keep reading them, and I'll see you tomorrow.